of My Tech Opinion. My name is Phil Edwards in Melbourne, and I'll be joined in a moment by my regular co-host in Perth, Shayne Johnston. Today's deep dive topic, we'll be talking about IT careers in Australia and some of the pitfalls and possibilities in the IT recruitment space. We'll be having a special guest talking to us about that, but let's start the show now. And welcome back to My Tech Opinion, brought to you by Aussie Tech Heads Web Hosting. For great hosting plans and support, visit athwebhosting.com.au. So My Tech Opinion is a show that covers the tech news, but we don't just gloss over it. We'll cover a couple of topics in depth and have a guest on where possible to talk in more detail about that. Coming up later tonight, we'll be talking about IT careers, or coming up later in the show, I should say, IT careers. What's happening in the world of IT jobs in Australia, and we'll have a special guest joining us, Jessica Reesby from Reesby Recruitment Services, and she's the IT recruitment consultant and owner of the business. So we're looking forward to that. But sitting on my right on the screen is in Perth, Shayne Johnston. How are you, Shayne?
I'm well, Phil. I'm looking forward to our first guest for the show. It's going to be really exciting.
Absolutely. It's going to be a very good conversation, we hope. When we have it, we'll say that with a wink and a nudge, and we'll talk a bit about that later on. But what we might do is we might jump now into some tech news. And first up in the news headlines, the South Australia Premier announces a pledge to create their own broadband network. South Australia has unveiled plans to more than double the reach of its Gig City fibre network and open it up to commercial operators wanting to compete with the NBN Co in the consumer market. Incumbent Labor government in South Australia today pledged to compete with NBN Co should it be re-elected at next month's state election. Labor said it would invest $35 million into a major expansion of the state government's existing fibre network to be known as the Fishbone. A really bad name. Mm-hmm. The network is already the foundation for Gig City, which offers gigabit services to innovation precincts across Adelaide. Gig City is made up of 120 k's of fibre, and the expansion would see Labor build out an additional 160 kilometres of fibre optic cabling. The combined 280-kilometre Fishbone network would be made available to internet providers to offer faster and cheaper services, the government said in a statement. IT News understands the government plans to convene a roundtable with interested telcos and ISPs if it wins the election. Those telcos and ISPs would then be offered the chance to tender to use the government-owned network infrastructure. At this stage, it appears they'd be responsible for the last-mile access technology, which is the most expensive part. The government does not appear to be proposing to overbuild NBN fixed lines connections in the metropolitan Adelaide itself. Very quickly on that, Well, it sounds all very exciting from the South Australian government. This is the exact reason why we need the NBN, because they're going, well, we're going to cable a bit between here and here, and that's all we're going to worry about. Whereas NBN are covering, the nearly entire, well, including satellite services, the entire population. So, there's a nice headline there, but it really doesn't tell you too much.
Yeah, I mean, two things. This guy's been in the headlines for a whole bunch of seemingly bleeding edge technology. He's done the battery thing. He's doing the solar panel thing. Now he's doing the internet thing. He's our own kind of Elon Musk, or Steve Jobs.
Well, he's relying on Elon Musk for all the technology, though. I think he's going to be launching a rocket with a car in it soon, by the sound of it.
He's not the first, though. I mean, the Gold Coast are doing the same thing because the rollout of the NBN for the Commonwealth Games is dragging its feet, so they've had to do their own thing. We've got snippets of it, or patches of it, over here in Perth.
And the thing is, in business precincts, it absolutely makes sense. The problem that you get is that when you then go into residential areas and smaller areas, then that's being sort of left alone by the telco. So we might move on to the next news topic. Last week, or recently, the Australia's new payments platform goes live. The billion-dollar new platform underpinning Australia's payment system has been set live to the public last week, but the Commonwealth Bank is the only major bank to open it to customers at launch. The financial services industry and federal government have been working on the new payments platform, or the MPP, since early 2012. The MPP works like a secure set of rails between banks so they can send payment messages in real time to each other by the Reserve Bank. And there was an additional warning on this: don't use your mobile phone number for PayID. Before your money is actually transferred, you're asked to verify who you are sending the payment to. At this point, the account holder's name, or PayID account holder's name, more accurately, is displayed on the screen. This prevents any accidental payments to the wrong person, which in theory is a great idea. If you went into your bank app, selected a PayID transfer, and then typed in a random mobile number, then hit pay on the next page, you are shown the name of the person who owns that mobile number. The PayID system essentially becomes a reverse phone lookup system. Yeah, that's a problem. Now, the thing is, there's two parts to this. The PayID platform is designed that you can use an email address, or if you're a company or a business, you can use your ABN or ACN. But I know my personal bank, the Westpac Bank, at this stage are saying, no, you have to use your mobile number.
Yep.
So short answer is, sorry, not joining. Now, the other part of that also is some people have suggested in the past that you need to have PayID to get real-time transfers. No, not at all. If you're on a new payments platform, you can continue to use your BSB account. There you go.
Is that an international thing as well? Or is it just
No.
Australian?
Just it's sort of like the FPOS network. It's just that cross-bank thing.
Okay.
So if you're going to use international, there's different other platforms to use, but not at this stage. One day, maybe, hopefully. PayPal will get worried if that happened, I can tell you that. And our final news story today, the Commonwealth Bank has announced an immediate ban on the use of Commonwealth Bank and Bankwest credit cards to buy cryptocurrency. They will not ban other methods of flat payment. The bank said in a statement that cryptocurrencies did not meet minimum standards of regulation, reliability, and reputation, but provided no further details. However, it will not ban customers from using debit cards or other types of accounts to either buy crypto coins or receive credits from exchanges. You can still buy and sell virtual currencies using other Commonwealth Bank transaction accounts and debit cards as long as you comply with our terms and conditions and relevant legal obligations. The bank said that while customers could still use debit cards to make crypto purchases, they might experience some issues in trying to do so. Some virtual exchanges have been blocked by the bank's security systems over fraud risks or for chopping and changing accepted payment methods, according to CBA. Looking at this is very interesting because as I was reading that, I was thinking of, hang on, because once you've got cryptocurrency, it's yours. So, yeah, and you're going through a platform that could be unregulated, firstly, but also what's stopping? Like, you could go to the bank and say, well, there was an unauthorized transaction on my account and you need to reverse it, but you've already got the coin, the Bitcoin or the, whatever the currency you bought. So there is a real fraud risk there, I think. So I think that this is a sensible approach from the Commonwealth. So if they're saying basically you can buy it in cash, you just can't buy it with credit.
Yeah.
Do you think it's sensible, Shayne?
Yeah, I mean, there's other limitations of around credit cards and things like that. There's also limitations around like where I work. We've got a company that does what's the word, salary sacrifice. So basically, a portion of my wage goes into a separate account, and I can't. It comes with like a card. I can't go to an ATM and take money out. I can only pay bills with it or buy things with it. I can't do cash related stuff with it.
Right.
So it's a similar
The
restriction.
advantages of working for a non-profit.
Yes.
Yeah. We won't go into that, but that's another thing.
Forgot who you work for.
Yeah. That's within the rules, so it's all right.
That's true.
Anyway, that's it for the news. So that's it for the news this episode of My Tech Opinion. we will be taking a break shortly before we get into our key topic. But I would just sort of we'd say hello and get the program underway properly and what have you. Now, Shayne, you had mentioned on a previous episode that you had changed your internet providers and you were having issues with your fiber to the premises connection, and it was occurring over both providers.
Yes.
Have you had a resolution to it?
I believe so. I may have to eat a little bit of humble pie.
Okay.
But I may have also been having two issues. Because I would
Right. So you're
swear
saying you're the cause of the problem, are you?
it may have been a peb cake thing going on, and for those
Right.
uninitiated, problem encountered between chair and keyboard. But no, what it primarily, well, actually, I still swear black and blue that when I tested it on my old provider, taking the router out, I had problems. So either I was having two problems, or just coincidentally the planets lined up and they were having some sort of random thing that just took my internet connection out for a while on that particular day. But what I think was the real problem was it was a couple of weeks ago, so it's been rock solid for like 2 weeks, touch wood. And what I think it fell over like a couple of times one weekend. And this would also explain why it was happening on a weekend more than not, because more people were using it. But that will become clear soon. Normally, to fix the problem in inverted quotes, I would restart the router and it would come good for a while. And then it would seem to be a problem when I would go on to Google services, and it would seem to be a problem more on the weekend. On the weekend, more people using it, more people watching YouTube. Well, and I don't know why I did what I did, but I'm glad I did what I did. And for some reason, when I had it another time, I thought, oh, stuff bloody restart the router. There's got to be another cause. And for whatever reason, I turned off the DDoS protection on the firewall, the stuff that's got the flood protection, and the ping protection, and what I think it was in this particular case was the UDP flood protection. And it all kind of lines up because YouTube is all UTP traffic. On the weekend, everyone's home, everyone's watching YouTube, so that's why Google kind of got the blame. And then when at the time I didn't know it was that specifically. So even at the moment, all that protection is kind of turned off. Although it was between now, the time I'm saying that, and by the time you post this, I will have it all turned back on. So all you crooks out there, don't think you can just come in and walk around my network. So I think it was that. And when I was doing all the Googling, I was Googling my router and the problem that I was having and wasn't finding anything. As soon as I realized what the problem was, and then I started Googling the DDoS protection and then the problem I was having, I had all these results come up saying, yes, it's the UDP flood protection. If you turn that off, everything will be fine. It was exactly the symptoms I was getting. It wouldn't actually drop the connection, but it was basically dropping the UDP traffic. So therefore, the DNS uses UDP, uses UDP as well, which is why it was coming up with DNS errors. So it just all made sense once I kind of stumbled across that. So it was probably largely my fault.
Excellent. Well, not excellent that it was largely your fault, but excellent that you've resolved the issue at the moment.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. However, I would like to have an NBN connection that I would have a problem with. So if NBN would like to connect me up and then throw me some rubbish, I'd really appreciate it.
Where did you get to with because you were when you were looking at building a house or rebuilding a house, you were going to ask the question about the fiber thing.
Right. Well, this is a fun exercise, wasn't it? So basically, my wife and I have pretty well decided that we are going to knock our house down and build a new one. So the room that I'm sitting in, it's going to take a while for it to happen, but the room I'm sitting in will cease to exist at some point. And I could be doing a podcast from an empty block of land, depending on where we live. But what the situation is that I'm going to be getting fiber to the curb. And when they demolish a house, they need to remove all services, and that includes ripping the copper cable out that is the current telephone line between my house and the footpath. And when the house is built, they will replace it. So that's all good. And I'm like, well, they've run fiber out to the front of my house. The reason why that there is not fiber into the house is because it's just cheaper not to. But if we're having to replace it anyway, and if I have to pay for it, fine, like as long as it's reasonable. But why not find out about whether we can have fiber? And so I was trying to find stuff on the NBN website. Now, the problem with that at the moment is that fiber to the curb is a technology they're rolling out, but they actually don't have any information about it until they make it an active product. So if you look on their help forums, they say it's coming, but we don't have anything else. And technically, with the multi-technology mix technology choice program, which is where you can ask to be upgraded, but you have to pay for it. Their NBN's official line is you have to actually have an active service of what you've been given first before we'll consider upgrading it. So that will be their answer. But I sent an email off going, look, we're looking at rebuilding. At this stage, is there any information on whether it can support this or not? Any information. I know it's early. You're not going to be able to give me definitives, but I'm just interested. The response I got back was, you have to sign up for a developer application. So you can, and then we'll assess your application. If it's approved, then we can work out. It was just the worst answer I've ever seen. So my thought is I'm just going to forget about it for the moment. I will hope that in March, April, when my connection is turned on, I will then investigate going on there so that we should have some better idea of what actually could be done. And then we'll make the determination. We'll just see what. Oh, that was the other reason, because the builder has quoted like $2,500 NBN pack as part of the build, which really I'd probably get anyway because it was networking points and that throughout the house. So, but and a small patch panel. So who knows? We'll see what happens. But I'm surely going to talk about it at some point. So there you go.
Oh, so what do you reckon? Should we get into the deep dive topic and get this interview on the way?
Absolutely. So we'll take a very, very quick break on My Tech Opinion, and we'll be back with our feature topic this week, which will be talking about IT careers, and we'll be joined by our special guest right after this. And welcome back to My Tech Opinion. We've just had our news, and we're going into our feature topic for tonight. And we're looking at IT careers and what's happening in that world in terms of job opportunities, education, and things like that. We've got a guest with us, and we'll talk to her in a moment. But I just wanted to read something, some stats that I saw recently from a story from IT Brief, and Seek have published some data, and Seek, of course, have a bit of a skin in the game, but they've said that Seek has collected data on the nation's job market, revealing which skills are in demand, which job seekers are seeing a decline in terms of job opportunities, and which Australian states are offering the highest number of technology job vacancies. The data shows an increase of 14.7% in job and numbers in January 2018 compared to 12 months ago. The article goes on to say science and technology was close behind in terms of growth at the second highest with 22%, and government and defence with a 21% increase. Overall, the nation is seeing a strong demand for STEM skills, which is science, technology, and engineering and mathematics, which reflects a global talent shortage, said Seek Australian New Zealand Managing Director Kendra Banks. The talent shortage has been identified by Australian CEOs as one of their top business risk areas, but it also creates huge competitive job opportunities for Australians with engineering and IT skills. So with that in mind, we've got joining Shayne and myself is our first ever guest actually on My Tech Opinion. She is the owner of Reesby IT Recruitment, and please welcome My Tech Opinion, Jessica Reesby. G'day, Jess. How are you?
Hello, guys. Really, really good. Yourself?
Good, good.
Doing well.
Thanks for joining us.
Very welcome. Thanks for having me on.
We'll talk a bit about your business a bit later, but you heard some of those stats I said there. Have you seen, you're on the front lines of IT recruitment, you're finding candidates, you're talking to businesses.
Yeah.
Are you seeing that
Definitely.
sort of competitive nature and that increase in requirements going through?
Look, there's a couple of things that I have concerns in and around those stats. First of all, I don't know if Seek job ads can necessarily really indicate as to whether or not those job opportunities are really there, first of all. Second of all, I mean, obviously, a lot of employers go out to multiple recruitment companies. So you might have 10 new network engineer jobs, but they're all vying for the exact same role. So there's only one position, but there's 10 job ads. Or they might be duplicate job ads to try and attract, further talents. Sometimes they might list it as network engineer, and sometimes they might word it slightly differently to attract, a diverse talent pool because there might be an urgent fill. There's certainly an increase in job opportunities, but as well, we're seeing a big decrease, like they said, in the talent, because we've also put some new restrictions on the 457 visa. Um, it really is a changing industry. We've also seen that a lot of the older technology skills are now no longer really, like, they're a bit redundant. So people who maybe 20 years ago, really hot technical engineers, developers, whatever, they're now no longer really all that employable in certain spheres because they just don't have the up-to-date skills. So it's changing so quickly that you pretty much had to have your degree, a couple of years ago, or a certain upskill throughout your career to really make sure that you're up to date. So that's also limiting the pool, is because that generation before us is now, struggling to get jobs because they're a bit outdated in their tech. Not always, but sometimes. So that's kind of what I see as being the problem.
So I saw that RMIT in Victoria this week, in the last week, have announced that they're running a blockchain short course, focusing on that as part of, and what I've read, you can do that subject as a standalone subject or part of a degree. Is it important that people who are in that IT job market go and do these sorts of courses, whether it's blockchain or whether it's anything, because as you're saying, they need to be completely up to date with, with the current technology so that they're a desirable candidate?
Look, I mean, I'm a big advocate for most of the major universities. We do a lot of partnership type work with them. But I will say too, creating new courses, make sure that you've got professionals who know what they're doing so that the students aren't left dissatisfied and unemployable. Make sure the short course is actually valuable to their career instead of just, a money grab. I'm not saying that that is the case. I'm sure it would be quite valuable. Looking at that from my perspective as a recruiter, if I see that on a CV, of course, that's a huge tick. So, but it's just as long as that course content is really relevant and accurate, because it is such a new technology and there's very limited professionals. I don't know how many teachers of that industry are out there, but sure there'd be few and far between. So just making sure that everything that's within these courses is really up to scratch. But it sounds to me like that actually could be really of great benefit to a lot of people out there who are looking to break into really quite a booming sector within IT.
Shayne, is there any questions you have at this stage?
Yeah, I do. I was just wondering, and it's kind of with these deep dive topics, sometimes they're topics that we pick because we have an interest in them, or sometimes we have, we pick them because we would like to find out more about them. And in this particular case, I've got a few questions around kind of getting into the industry, and also in my case, because I've been in the industry a while, kind of how I kind of stay current and up to date. So I guess the first question, in relation to where an agency fits in, it's been a while since I guess I've been through an agency, so it may have changed. But it's been my experience that with agencies, even though they kind of claim to specialise in IT, like your particular agency does, they don't necessarily, or they don't always come across as understanding the technical side of it. So when I've gone for the initial interview, either they haven't asked any technical questions, or they've asked the technical questions, and I've just got the impression that I could have just rattled off anything, and they wouldn't have known whether I was right, wrong, or in between. So what's the importance or the relevance for that initial kind of interview with the agency before they get shortlisted to the actual customer?
Good question. I mean, it really does depend on exactly who you're dealing with within even certain agencies where they may have a couple of consultants who really do specialize in tech. It could be a couple of newbies who maybe don't. So I guess that's similar to all sectors of work. You might walk into a store and be dealing with someone who's quite new to the store, and they might not know where the latest jeans are, which rack to go to. So it does depend on who you choose to go through. But at the end of the day, we've got pretty strict ways of screening both our candidates and also our consultants to make sure that they do know what they're talking about, that they're well read, they understand the technology, that we really take quite a detailed job brief as well. We can implement things like technical tests, and there are certain questions that should be asked. I'm surprised that you would go into a recruitment company as an IT professional and not be asked some pretty serious questions that are relating specifically to your job. I don't know what that might have been. Maybe that was initial, like what they see sometimes like a behavioral type meeting. But I guess it just it depends from recruitment company to recruitment company what you're going to experience, who you're going to interact with. But you certainly should be having quite specific questions asked to your capabilities and your skill set, whether you're a web developer, an app developer, or network engineer or system engineer. And you'd expect that person understands what kind of questions and what kind of answers are going to be verifiable. But as well, you've got to remember that, like I've just said, sounds to me like maybe who you were dealing with might not have uh, either known the right questions to ask, or maybe they were relatively new, or it wasn't their specialty. But that sort of thing shouldn't really occur, I wouldn't imagine.
Okay. Well,
But
yeah. I think, like I said a while ago, and I think going on memory, it was probably more they were trying to suss what I was like as a person, because the role
as a
was,
human,
the role had a lot of customer service as well. So I guess they were trying to suss that out.
Yeah.
Do you think that the market, the IT, the recruitment market in terms of you as a consultant, as a consultancy business, has matured in terms of, I mean, you specialize in IT recruitment in particular. That specialization across the industry now, whereas in the past it might have been, a larger company who's just doing everything and that sort of thing, if that makes sense?
Yeah, look, there are many big companies that they do have. Obviously, I don't ever want to say anything, really go into detail in and around what other agencies are doing, but
Of course.
the larger the business, I guess, the less specialized you're going to get, from the training, from the onboarding, from the amount of people that they're dealing with. Like, they've got a lot of jobs to handle. They could be moving from a retail job to a marketing job to a this to a that. It's really all about the numbers, about the dollars. So to them, the details, the specific questions, the technical tests, all of that really doesn't, it takes too much time. It's a very time consuming process. And hence why maybe in a lot of instances, you might not exactly get people who, in and through get the tech and have the time to really go through and verify a lot of things. But it's a numbers game for a lot of the larger institutions. It's not always the
Absolutely.
case, but that's what I would imagine.
So another question I have is, you look at, and you might completely disagree with me on this, so I'll throw that out there now. But we
Yeah.
look at a platform that is become ubiquitous in the Australian market, which is Seek, as a way for people to seek and, funnily enough, and
Yeah.
apply for jobs.
Yeah.
I to be honest, have not. I've been with my current employer for 15 years, so I have not really used Seek at all in 15 years in anger.
Mm,
But
mm,
my criticism of the platform was that it makes it very, very, very easy to apply for a job, to the
mm,
point that people just apply for a lot of jobs and, cast the net out and just hopefully they reel one in.
mm.
Do you think that that is an issue? And also, what do you do? And I suppose this is some advice for people for success. What do you do to try and separate the wheat from the chaff? Is probably the best way
Yeah.
to.
Look, I guess with experience, you get really quick at filtering these things out. But something I do, I go out and talk to a lot of young people to encourage young people not only to either stay in IT or to get into IT, but also advise them the kind of first steps to take when you're going out into the real world. The first thing that I do say to all the students at the unis that I talk to and give lectures at is quality over quantity. Literally, I tell them set aside 1 month after you've graduated and spend that month just like you would on a thesis as towards getting a job. So you'll have 1 day of your planning, strategy, identify 10 roles that you want to go for, identify 10 and research those companies first because
Yep.
it's not just about the job that you get into, but sometimes you might land yourself a job or maybe if you're, for example, for yourself, Phil, if you were to be leaving your current employer right now after 15 years, now if you move into a job and you suddenly find that you don't like it, you're going to have to then quit and start again. And
Yep.
then the next job that you get, let's just say you have also not really either done your research or whatever, suddenly you're in the same position. Now that does not look good on a CV, particularly
No.
for a young person, if it's their first couple of jobs and they just happen to be unlucky because they've just thrown their hat in the ring to too many different things, then and as well, you could progress really quickly with some businesses. It's not always about the big, huge brands. Sometimes it is. Sometimes big brands are great. They're awesome for career growth. But there's also other avenues like startups. I tell a lot of young people start considering working for these smaller businesses that are working on really funky, interesting tech, um, and get yourself experience with a business like that. Uh, some of the issues, look, Seek and Indeed, all these job platforms, they do have their pros and cons. They cost hundreds of dollars to post job ads on Seek, whereas Indeed
Yep.
is practically free. More often than not, you're either getting the same candidates or, to be honest with you, there's not a huge difference. But there's other reasons as to why you would use these kinds of platforms as well, particularly for recruitment companies, advertising and whatnot. But you should use your network. That's the first thing that we turn to. We spend a lot of time on the phone building relationships with people and getting to know them as real people rather than just screening them for a job and then, oh, you don't match the criteria, goodbye.
Yep.
We like to actually, get to know someone and say, okay, well, look, this might not be a match for you this time round, but let's have a look at what to do next for you in your career, and we can touch base with them in a month's time, and then maybe we've got something way more suitable. Um,
So,
that kind of.
so with that in mind, you're suggesting that if you're actually in the job market out there, that people should start building relationships with recruitment consultants rather than just waiting for jobs to come to them. Because would you prefer
Yeah.
to try and fill a position off your database rather than going out to market, if that makes sense?
It's a tough one. At the end of the day, it's going to be each unique to the role. Every job is very different.
Yeah.
Every business is very, very, very different. So sometimes it's a lot of headhunting. Other times it's network. Of course, I love to help the people who I deal with day to day. But I don't exactly pick preference over that. I go for the person who's best suited to the job that I've got. And also, it's not just about them being suitable, but is the job suitable also for them? You know, that's the other flip side because you want them to go there and stick around and be happy and actually it be an awesome career move for them, not just
Absolutely.
for you. Yeah.
So that you mentioned before and you touched on it just then, a lot of things I'm saying is that the average time people spend in a job is 18 months to 2 years.
Mm.
What do you see is, and I know that obviously it's individual case and there's certain criteria, but if I was doing a different job every 6 months, is that bad? Is 2 years average? Can I be in a job, potentially be in a job for too long? Is there
Mm.
things that you look at from that perspective,
Yeah,
or an
definitely you can.
employer would?
Absolutely. From a feedback point of view, from a lot of clients that I've met with, rightfully or wrongfully, I have had clients say, "Oh, that person's been there for quite a while." Let's just say a major organisation, whoever it might be, a big telco or a big bank, and then they say, "Oh, does that mean that they maybe are a little out of touch with what's going on in the rest of the industry?" It's a case by case because sometimes that person's been, getting paid for training and qualifications on the job. So, in terms of the shortness as well, you've got to be mindful that you don't want someone who's unreliable and moving around because they're no good. At the same time, in demand IT professionals do get approached a lot. There are a lot of great opportunities out there. I sort of advocate for this concept that I thought of when I was quite young. And I believe that we should actually probably split the week up and work two different jobs during the week. I think as humans to interact with people that aren't family and be with them basically day in, day out, every single day of the week, I feel it's quite draining on the relationships, similar to if you were seeing your best friend every day. Eventually, you might get a little bit worn out. It's like having a housemate that you never really agreed to sign up with.
Yeah.
So I think splitting, if you had 2 or 3 days in one job and then 2 or 3 days in another job, maybe it's slightly different. It doesn't have to be a competitor to the business. I think people would stick around in roles more. They'd also learn a lot more and be able
Yep.
to contribute much more to the business they're working with. They might be working with a bank and then also go off and work with an insurance company or whatever kind of other business. And something they've learnt there might actually be really transferable and beneficial. So that's where we see contracting come into play and more freelance jobs are on the market. And the way that people are working is also changing a lot. We're moving away from office-based roles more to home-based. The reason why offices were set up was because not everyone had access to phones and computers, and also you couldn't collaborate without being having been sat next to someone. Whereas
Yep.
now we've got cloud-based computing, you could log in, and similar to what we're doing right now, even with just the simplest things like Google Docs, and you're actually able to see someone else while they type, and all of that kind of stuff can be tracked. And you've got phones at home, laptops at home. I really don't know why some people actually go into an office, to be honest with you. There's kind of not really a huge need for that. And some businesses are wisening up to that. They're moving out of the CBD, and they're also offering days from home for some individuals. And it can save a lot of transport and transit times and increase productivity in some cases. So, yeah, it's all up in the air right now for 2018.
Any questions you've got over there, Shayne?
I do, yeah. I had a couple. We've kind of touched on a couple of things that I wanted to ask questions about, and before we kind of move too far on. I mean, you asked the exact question that I wanted to ask about the longevity of it, because and it seems to be cyclical as well, or even kind of country based, like the US, where there was a time where the US would think if someone was in a job for too long, they lacked ambition, and then other countries would think, well, if you're going from job to job to job, you can't settle down. I mean, in my case, I was with Telstra for 13 years. I was with Westtrac, which is a Caterpillar dealer over here, for 7 years. Since leaving Westtrac, I've kind of done odds and sods here and there where I was working for smaller IT companies and just didn't kind of fit in. With Active, because they're a slightly bigger organisation, I've been there for two years this month. So, but where I've unfortunately missed out is Telstra offered in-house training, Westtrac offered in-house training, Active offer in-house training, but it's not recognised outside of outside of those companies. So I found myself kind of really trying to justify, well, how come I've been in IT for so long, yet I haven't climbed the corporate ladder, or how come I haven't got all these, you know, acronyms and letters after my name. And it's not because I haven't done the work or I haven't got the experience. I just haven't got the recognition. So for someone in my boat, how do you kind of get around that?
Well, it's a hard one. That's why a lot of people, after about a year or two, they're now starting to realize, well, with one job move, you can make between anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000 more. I actually once had a candidate say jokingly to me, he goes, I once just randomly applied for a job. I wasn't even that interested. I just tried my luck and I actually doubled my salary. I didn't place this candidate in that role, but he said I actually told the company, yeah, double my salary, and I ended up getting it, and I just made the figure up. I don't think that's really the right way to go about it, but you can move into more senior roles, and some people associate natural human nature to associate price with quality. So then the higher their salary expectation is when they actually, when they're applying for jobs, sometimes can put them in a better position to obtain that role. Um, it is hard because in the technology world, yeah, it is seen that maybe after working for quite a period of time, and if probably that might be something that needs to be changed, to be honest with you, Shayne. Just coming to think about it, even integrating major universities, there could be an opportunity here. So I might give a nudge to fellow Latrobe or something to maybe look at working in some corporate training skills and upgrading. Because think about it, A, it's going to make that university a bit of extra coin. B, you've got the partnership, but C, the person will actually have a more recognized qualification under their belt as opposed to something just simply internal. So yeah, that's some companies hire based on tenure. They look at someone like you and say, "Yep, we love it. Sign us up." Some people might look at a candidate like you and say, "No, we don't want it." So you just got to go now for the jobs for people who do value like tenure and
Loyalty.
who think differently. Yeah, and not just that, like people who understand, maybe they've been through it before or they've hired people in similar positions and they don't have that twisted presumption in their mind, because there's a lot of presumptions that go on within day-to-day life, and you don't want to be sitting there feeling like you're outdated when you're not.
Cool.
I do have a slight change of tack for you now, Jess. One of the things that we've talked about, not on air, but and you've also got on your website, is that you're involved in some groups, some industry groups, Women in IT. And I noticed that's on your website saying 25% of IT jobs are held by women, 18% of engineering students are female, 20% higher success rates of startups run by women, and a 15% increase in increased business profit when a female is appointed to a board or an executive position. It's something you're quite passionate about. Are you seeing that there's been quite a bit of bad press from not about women in tech, but about women getting into tech? Has it improved? Are you seeing that the businesses are being more socially conscious in terms of their hiring practices? And are we also seeing more women going through, the university degrees and things like that, high participation rates than we might have in the past?
Yeah, okay. So there's a
There's a
couple of
lot in
things.
that. There's a lot in that. I
Yeah,
know.
there's a lot. Yeah. First of all, if I'm to tell you, if you're running a company and I say, hey, statistically, if you hire a woman in your senior leadership team, you're going to profit more. What do you think you're going to do? You're going to turn around and put as many females on that board as you possibly can. And these numbers are verifiable, globally been researched and verifiable. It's not done by my agency, these are external. And, we're talking multiple studies that are all coming up with the same figures, basically. So now businesses not only, obviously they're going to sign off and say we're all about social policy and cause, and I'm sure it's a part of it, of course, absolutely. they do realize and recognize equality is important in society. Like we're living in 2018. But
Yep.
as well, if it's going to make them a bit of extra money too, good. That's great. You see better collaboration in teams. You see women are contributing just slightly different ideas sometimes because apparently we think slightly differently. Our brains are a little bit different. So in terms of what I'm seeing, my clients do come to me sometimes strictly on a basis where they say, okay, get your team to just send us only females. And we do, we'll send them only women for specific roles because they have 98% of their organization are males and the rest are maybe, females, but in quite low paid, not very, reputable jobs. So they want to try and change that and change their image and bring in a different idea. Women coming in, you mentioned young girls getting into tech. Well, it's definitely changed where it's no longer just that young image of that boy nerd sitting behind a computer anymore. Everyone's dealing with technology day to day. Some of the best software programs that I use have been developed by women, which is really cool, or have been founded by women. Some of the most interesting businesses that I've worked with personally have also been led by women, and these are tech businesses. A lot of female developers I meet with absolutely kill it when it comes to what they know within their field. We're about diversity, so we're kind of split between the two, where we don't take priority. But hey, encouraging anybody to get into an industry that might benefit them in their life, of course, we want to try and make sure we get a fair and even split.
So
Awesome.
just to extend that a little bit further,
Mm.
so we've talked about the male and female kind of demographic.
Mm.
I'm also part of another demographic that's kind of, I guess, is a minority because I have a disability. So I'm an advocate, and I don't want to come across like I want to poo-poo anything that's been talked about up to this point. But I'd lean towards when I hear things like, we've got to have a certain amount of this group of people or a certain amount of that group of people, including people with disabilities like myself. You straight away think quotas and are you really getting the best person for the job? How do you kind of counter that kind of argument?
Oh, yeah, I get this one a lot. I've had, look, I get invited as well, talk at tech expos and stuff, and I've had some, I don't think heated discussions, but some quite, back and forth discussions on the topic of quotas. Firstly, I think it's similar to if someone wants to try and lose weight, you're going to have to, or save some money for a house. You have to set goals, right, that you can achieve and head towards. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen. So setting those quotas in a way is really good, even if you're not hitting them, is a good way to actually strive towards something. Behind it is all only positive aspects. No one wants to really just hire women within their company to just hire the women. I'm telling you, trust me, that's not happening. I'm dealing with executives of these businesses and having real conversations with them, and that is absolutely not what's going on. In terms of finding the females for us, it's very time consuming. I could find probably between 10 to 20 men for every female I find that are suitable for the job. I'm not sending through candidates who are not fit for the job description. They're perfect. If not sometimes better than the guys. It's just if these companies don't approach businesses like mine and say, hey, we only want women, where are they going to come from? Where are they going to see that diversity? Because the other agencies, they don't have the time. They don't, not always, but they don't have the time or the interest, and they just know that they could find a much quicker solution for the same amount of resources and expenditure. So I do think it's important to actually say, look, we want to improve this. This is an issue, because it is. Can you find us some women? But I am against, of course, placing someone into a job just as like a token role. But so far, I've never dealt with an organisation that's done that at all. I think that'd be silly. It wouldn't work out. It's tech. You have to be able to do the job. But as well, you can train a female to learn something if she doesn't have all the skills. So there's that aspect too. It's sometimes it's about giving them the opportunity to at least try and learn and be trained up to the level that's required. But there's a lot of good females out there who are already at that level. They're just harder to come across, and that's why we've got them on our books.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, is there anything else we want to add? We might wrap our conversation up tonight. Is anything else that you wanted to add in, Shayne, before we finish it up?
There was one other question that I'll quickly just rattle off, because I appreciate your time with us, Jess. And it's been valuable so far. Just in the terms, and I guess it depends on where the person is in their career, but I was just wondering if you could kind of quickly rank, for the want of a better word, things like uni degrees or industry certifications like your Microsoft, your ITIL, your Cisco, versus your IT training organizations like your lynda.com, your LinkedIn Learning, your CBT Nuggets, attending conferences like Microsoft Ignite. Do they have different strengths and weaknesses against each other?
I think it's a conglomeration of all of the above. If you could have multiple, that's great. Getting along to these different conferences could spark an idea in your mind. I'm not a huge fan of these little short courses always, but sometimes they can be really valuable. So I think it's kind of having a mix. There are certain jobs that have that prerequisite for, like they might be after like a CCIE or whatever it is that they might actually require as just a prerequisite. And a degree, of course, says more than just the degree. You guys probably know, it's like, the fact that they're able to meet deadlines, and it's like commitment. So it's in a higher level of thinking for a long period of time. So I couldn't say that one is more valuable than the other, but I definitely don't think someone could just get through their entire tech career through like LinkedIn Learning. Like, I mean, I just don't see that being. I'd love to see that. That'd actually be kind of funny. But those sorts of programs are there for a whole bunch of other reasons, not just necessarily for educational purposes. So they've got many reasons behind why they launch these courses, these businesses.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we might wrap it up now, Jess. We've got your website address on the bottom of the screen. So if anyone is in the IT industry and is looking for a role, they can contact you at reesby.com.au.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Drop your CV in. You never know, would have the perfect job for you. Or if you're either a startup or a large company, or you work for a business and you're just finding, hey, we need more higher quality staff, or maybe you need a few more females within your company, don't hesitate to reach out and get in touch with us, because we can definitely help improve a business. And most technology companies know that your technology product is really only as good as the people, the staff working on it, the developers or whoever is maintaining it, et cetera, et cetera. So get onto the site, even if you've just got some questions in and around what we've discussed. I know I've been kind of flat, but I'm just trying to get out as much info as I possibly can. I know we've only got a short space of time. It's quite late. So, I'm just trying to feed you all as much information that might be useful.
That's great. And so reesby.com.au. If you're listening on the audio podcast, that's reesby.com.au. And if you're on the video stream, you can see that on the screen as well. Well, Jessica Reesby, thank you very much for being a guest on My Tech Opinion. It has been a fantastic conversation, and we may talk to you again in the future.
Love it. Definitely happy to be back on. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
Thanks,
Jess.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Bye.
Bye. And we just had Jessica Reesby there on My Tech Opinion. We're going to take a very short break, and then we'll wrap it up after this. Okay, and welcome back to My Tech Opinion. I'm saying welcome back. We're going to close the show off. We have to big thanks to Jessica Reesby, who talked about IT recruitment tonight and her spin from her professional consultant perspective. It was a really good conversation, Shayne.
Yeah, no, I loved it. I was really impressed with just the depth of knowledge that she had about the industry, the breadth of knowledge that she had as well. Clearly, she knows what she's doing in the industry. She's been in the industry as an agency for a long period of time. She really, really good information. I got a lot out of it. Actually, it was good.
Absolutely, and look, I've met Jess a few times through Geeks Interrupted, the radio / podcast show that I also do, and we've always been very focused on just generic tech things rather than talking about the IT recruitment side of it. So it was really good to talk to her in more detail about that. Really good. So what we're going to do is close off the show. Now, if you want to find out about all the different ways you can view my tech opinion or listen to it, just head to the website, prosumerit.com. And on the right-hand side, there is a host of links that takes you directly to the YouTube channel. There's also, because there's the My Tech Opinion YouTube channel, there's the Prosumer IT, which we'll have other stuff on in the future. So make sure you have a look at those. If you want to listen to the podcast, if you are looking at the video, go to the iTunes or the Apple podcast store now and do a search for My Tech Opinion, and you can subscribe to us there. And remember to leave a review because that helps us get noticed on the directories and gets more people to listen to what we're talking about and the excellent conversations we had tonight.
The other place you can find us is, and sorry to jump on you in case you were going to mention it, but the other place to find us is through Aussie Tech Heads Radio.
Right.
Yeah, and they're obviously a supporter of ours, Aussie Tech Heads, and the web hosting they do, which is athwebhosting.com.au.
Absolutely. So any app that supports Shoutcast, such as Winamp, which kicks the llama's ass, which is another reference from something else, you can listen to Aussie Tech Head Radio or go to aussietechheads.com.au/radio. So that's it for episode 4 of My Tech Opinion. We'll be back next time with more tech news and long discussions about exciting things, and we haven't even decided what to do. So until next time, this is Phil Edwards in Melbourne and
Shayne in Perth. Shayne Johnson in Perth.
Thanks very much, everyone. Have a great afternoon or great evening or whenever you're listening to this. We'll see you next time.